CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, March 7th. Good morning. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa, -6 feels like -15 in the wind. In Smiths Falls, -5 feels like -12. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. One person was killed in an overnight fire in the city. Ottawa fire crews were called to a low-rise apartment building on Wigeon Street in Sandy Hill just after 10 yesterday night. 911 calls from the monitoring company indicated heavy black smoke in the complex. Crews began a fast attack and were able to locate the fire in the bedroom of a unit on the first floor. One person was found in the room and taken out to waiting paramedics. The person was pronounced dead and the building had to be evacuated. A bus was brought in to shelter residents while the building was ventilated. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Just a few flurries at times today. Our guaranteed high -2 was reached early this morning. For the rest of the day, -4. Tonight, a few flurries, -7. And tomorrow, chance of a few more flurries near 0. For today, already reached our guaranteed high, -2.
City News time is 10:02. The case against the accused in the Orleans explosion has been outlined in court. Police believe Cody Crosby stole 2 water heaters from homes along Blossom Pass Terrace. The Ottawa Citizen reviewed the documents, which alleged the gas was flowing to those machines and was not shut off. For 15 hours from 3 Sunday afternoons to Monday morning, that gas built up until it ignited. The resulting explosion leveled 4 homes under construction, damaged dozens more, and injured 12 people. These details were backed up by security footage from cameras the builder Minto had installed at the site. Crosby is facing 10 charges. And the 2023 City of Ottawa budget has been passed, so the work begins in finding efficiencies for 2024. City News reporter Chris Curries with the details.
That line-by-line review gets underway, and Councillor Kathy Curry talks about getting started.
The number one thing we will need is input into this process and ideas and an understanding, really, of where our staff are right now with a lot of the reviews they have ongoing.
She's a member of the working group along with the mayor and a councillor at large, and says they need to get the feedback and determine if there are situations where budgets tell a different story than they might expect. The Canada North councillor says the group can only recommend to council. Chris Curry, City News.
I am Damilola Onime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining us here on City News. We have a very busy show for you today, and we're also getting ready for our show tomorrow to celebrate International Women's Day. So it's a busy week for us here on City News. Elliot Tepper is going to join us a little bit later to talk about the Chinese link to the election and if there's been any interference there. We look forward to spending time with Elliot. And of course, Wayne Gates is going to join us as well. He's an MPP for Niagara Falls, Fort Erie, and Niagara-on-the-Lake. Wayne and I are very passionate about something. We're going to talk about what that something is a little bit later. It is a bill that he was trying to pass at Queen's Park, and we're going to get an update from Wayne on that topic a little bit later. We wanted to spend some time today with Anne Kavukian. Hello, Anne. How are you?
Hi, Sam. I'm very well. Thank you.
It's great to spend time with you, Executive Director for Global Privacy and Security by Design. And let me ask you this, Anne. When it comes to privacy, sometimes the police don't get it right. Did they get it wrong recently in Lanark?
Yes, they did, unfortunately. And let me be clear, I have great respect for the police, but they've got to be straight about things that they do and the occasional mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. So they released the names and personal information, other identifiers of 2 men who were accused of doing something. And they told the community that was involved, be careful, close your doors, your windows, do not let these men anywhere near you. It was real alert. And then the next little while, they realized they had the wrong people. It was actually somebody else, and they arrested this third person. But what they didn't do is they didn't go back to that community and undo the very harmful email relating to these two alleged individuals who actually did not perpetrate that crime.
It's so interesting, Anne, because I was on the air that day, and of course, when we get those emergency alerts, especially for anything in our listening area, we share them here on City News. So it's like tree, it's like leaves falling off a tree, right? It's hard to ever get them back, Anne.
But you have to try. At least you have to make an effort to put out a statement. The earlier emergency alert we had, turns out there was a third person who was in fact the guilty party who we arrested. You can disregard our earlier. Even that's not even saying that we were wrong. We're sorry, which is what I would like them to do.
So give me a sense of the impact to these two individuals, then, Anne.
Let me tell you, when I was Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, and I was that for 3 terms, like a long time, people would come to me and say, please, can you help us? Identity theft, for example. People steal people's identity with the least amount of personally identifiable information, and it takes forever to clear your name. Or there are so many other things that can happen to individuals, in this case, who are falsely accused of a particular crime. Somebody sees that, then they see the individual, and they want to, beat them up or do something. It can be extremely harmful, and people don't realize that personal details relating to you should never be made public, especially in association with having committed a crime that is actually incorrect.
Mm-hmm. And our name is everything, Anne.
Yes, it's everything, and linked with personal identifiers like your address, your social insurance number, other information. It can tell so much about you, and it can be stolen. I'm not kidding. Identity theft can be used in the worst ways. And you might say, well, who the heck would want to steal these guys' identities? Nobody. But that's not the point. You use them to falsely claim something or order something under their name, and in fact, it's not them. And then you have to clear your name. That's when I was Privacy Commissioner. So many people contacted me, as I mentioned, that they're saying, look, we didn't order this stuff. The police are coming after us. It's not us. And I always used to say, the first thing you do is go to the police and file an occurrence report, something that indicates that your identity has actually been stolen. Then I would work with them to help them. It can take a long time to clear your name.
So what happens in terms of the OPP? Who sort of, and once again, I have a lot of respect for police as well, but who holds them accountable now, Anne?
Well, I guess it's the Premier. That's a very good question. The Premier, I would ultimately put the Premier in charge of this, because it's the Ontario Provincial Police. The head of Ontario, the Premier, should ultimately be responsible.
Do we take this seriously enough in this province and in this country, do you think, when it comes to this type of thing? And I'm going to relate back to another story, and I'm not suggesting you have to refer to it, but it's just top of mind for me. So yesterday, 2 people were charged in the death of a 7-week-old baby. And their names were held. However, their names have come out in various forms.
Yes.
So what happens then in terms of those kinds of situations?
See, this is so heartbreaking. But imagine your name comes out in association with the death of this poor baby, 7-week-old or whatever, and it turns out to be wrong. It's not you. Let's say they identified you as the perpetrator, and obviously it's not you. Try clearing your name. This is what is the big problem. Unless you are 100% correct, your name in association with the death of this poor child can be devastating. Can you imagine? Or my name, I would die. I would cringe. And that's the problem. Information has to be factually correct. And often it's not. And privacy is so important, because privacy relates to the control of your personal information, your personally identifiable data. And often you lack control in these public venues.
You absolutely do. And that's with, the whole the whole dawn of social media really took all of this away from us. Give us a sense, Anne, of when you served as privacy commissioner in terms of when social media was really ramping up.
Well, it had just started. I was first appointed commissioner in, I think it was 1997, a long time ago. And social media was just beginning. And at that time, so I created something called Privacy by Design. And the reason I created it, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a psychologist. I studied my PhDs in psychology and law, but I'm not a lawyer. So when I joined the commission, all the brilliant lawyers, applied the law to data breaches or privacy infractions. They did it beautifully. But I wanted, especially with the growth of social media, I wanted to prevent the harms from arising, ideally. I wanted to be proactive. So I literally created Privacy by Design at my kitchen table over 3 nights and took it into the office and sold it, if you will, to the lawyers. And I said, this isn't going to replace privacy laws. It will complement it by ideally minimizing the number of privacy harms that arise so we can bake privacy protective measures into the code, into our operations. And that's how all this began, because with social media, once it's out there, it's really hard to retract.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's and when I think about the 2 men that you speak about that were, their names were shared. I think even their birth dates were shared, weren't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, you can do so much with a birth date, right? To do harm to somebody. So in terms of their names and their birth dates, what recourse do they have? Like, could they now approach the province? I mean, I know you said the premier can hold OPP accountable, but what is the recourse for these 2 men?
They could go to the Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, who has the power to investigate it. The problem is these 2 individuals have been, I think, now arrested for something else. So I don't know if they'll be taken seriously. That's the problem.
Really interesting case. Very interesting. So Anne, when you think about privacy, like I just had to get a new computer, right? So I'm sitting there putting passwords in and doing all this type of thing. And it dawned on me yesterday, there's lots of people around watching and that kind of thing. And then, when you think about, your SIN number and you think about your passport and you think about all these things, I think to myself, am I too loose with these documents? Am I too loose with these things? Because, to your point, someone can steal that. I had my credit card, $9,000 taken off my credit card when the pandemic first hit. Somebody bought $9,000 worth of furniture at Home Depot. But all those things, are we too loose with this stuff in your mind?
I understand most people are too loose. And I understand that everyone's in a hurry. You're busy. You're running around. You don't have time to go through all this stuff. So if you can tighten up that looseness, it would be great. But that's why in my Privacy by Design protocol, privacy as the default setting is the second of the 7 foundational principles. And what it means is privacy as the default, and it says to customers and to data subjects, you don't have to worry about privacy. You don't have to ask for privacy. We give it to you automatically. You don't have to search for the opt-out box. We give it to you automatically. And the beauty of that is it was included in the new law passed in 2018 that came into effect in 2018 in Europe, the General Data Protection Regulation. And now that my Privacy by Design, just last week, in fact, has been made an ISO standard, this is huge because it's going to be global, worldwide. Privacy is the default setting, which means take the pressure off of individuals, consumers, data subjects. You, as the company, the organization, the government, have the responsibility to embed privacy protective measures proactively into all your operations, full stop. That's what I'm hoping for.
And you did all that at your dining room table, Anne?
Over 3 nights.
There you go. I love it. I love it. And I've learned a lot from you today. Let's stay in touch, okay?
Always. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Anne Kavukian joining us today, Executive Director for Global Privacy and Security by Design Center. Appreciate her time today. Really interesting story there. When we come back, I know you've heard it once. You probably heard it twice. Well, we're going to tell you a third time because it's really important that you get this done. The City of Ottawa is asking you to do something if you're an owner of a home in this city. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
The
This is Meg from Fit Over 50. On our next episode, we're going to be doing a full body workout using resistance bands. You can find bands at any local sporting goods store. So go get yours and hope to see you then.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
Welcome to the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Stalo people. The Stalo are people of the river. I'm so thankful for the courage and resiliency of our ancestors who lived on this land since time immemorial. Each of us have gifts from the Creator, and our Creator has a plan and purpose to be fulfilled in our territory. As we embrace our traditional teachings, we can lead the next generation into the fullness of what our Creator designed. Our shared history reveals a broken relationship. But as all Canadians commit to hear truth, acknowledge injustice, we can learn to walk in our traditional way, Letsamot, with a good heart and a good mind. Then all of our lives will be enriched. Kwasai.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, what takes 2 minutes? And if you own a house, you have to do it by March 16th. It's a little bit of a quiz today. Well, we're joined by Joseph Mahoney today to tell us all of the details of the vacant unit tax declaration. And of course, Joseph joins me. Hi, Joseph.
Hey, good morning, Sam.
Joseph is the Deputy City Treasurer of Revenue for the City of Ottawa. That's a big job, Joseph.
Well, yeah, it is. It's we try to make sure that we have what we need to keep city services running.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. This vacant unit tax, it's had a little bit of controversy around it, but the bottom line is we have to do it. It literally took me 2 minutes to do, Joseph. So it's not hard to do. Yeah. Where are we at in terms of people living in the city that have actually undertake that task?
So far, we've been very pleasantly surprised, Sam. Like, we have at this point in time 296,000 declarations completed, which is about 92% of the total number of declarations that we need completed. Now, we have our deadline coming up on March 16th, which is probably less than a little over about a week away. And we still have about 27,000 folks that we haven't heard from. So we're hoping that we will hear from them in the coming days before that deadline.
Okay, so if we've got 27,000 people listening right now that haven't reached out to you, Joseph, tell us what they need to do.
So making the declaration is easy. As you said, Sam, it takes no more than 2 minutes if you go online, especially if you're just own a home. It's fairly quick and easy. All we really need to know is how you use that property in 2022. And you just need to answer a couple of questions and you're done. If not, you can always call us at 613-580-2424, and we will take your declaration over the phone and help you complete that. Again, no more than 2 to 3 minutes, even if it's over the phone.
Okay.
And we can get that done for you.
And also, I understand that you can visit the Mary Pitt Center at 100 Constellation Drive as well.
Absolutely. We do have in-person options as well. If you want to actually speak to somebody in person to help you complete the declaration, you can come to Mary Pitt Center either as a drop-in, or you can go online, again, ottawa.ca, and set up an appointment to come in and see us, and we will help you, walk you through completing that declaration.
So I have to tell you, Joseph, the people that I worry about a little bit that may not have gotten this message, maybe some seniors not really understanding how to kind of go about this. Not that they're not smart people, but it can be a bit complicated to understand what this is all about. And with all of the warnings to seniors to not sort of reach out and do things, technically because of scams and stuff, we want to make sure that they know that this is something that they need to do. This is obviously something the city has directed to be done. So I worry about people like that. I worry about people maybe that have a disability that's maybe keeping them from doing this. Walk me through what we're doing for people like that in our community.
So one of the beautiful things about the vacant unit tax is we've actually had very targeted communication towards the seniors community through seniors networks, through seniors community associations. And one of the other things that we've leveraged quite a bit is just family networks. I know of many folks that have said, I need to remind my dad, I need to remind my aunt, or something to that effect, that this needs to happen. We've also done very broad communication to create general awareness that this is not a scam, this is something that the city is looking for. And even as we go into this last final stretch before this deadline that's looming, we're trying to sort of continue to intensify those efforts to sort of create awareness, especially for that small amount, the 27,000 that remain. So we've sent out some mail reminders with the official city logo, just sort of reminding folks that we do want to hear from them by March 16th. We're also doing some call blasts. And again, the call blast does not have any specific information. It'll just remind you that you need to get in touch with us to complete a declaration. And for the folks that might still have not declared, that are an email, if we do have your email, we are also continuing to reach out and say, hey, don't forget to do this by March 16th.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For somebody that chooses to declare falsely about their property, walk me through what the penalty is.
So once the declaration phase is finished, we will go into a billing phase, and then after that into an audit phase. So we will be auditing properties or declarations for that matter. If we find that you declared falsely and intentionally, there could be a fine up to $10,000 for providing false information on the declaration. And we try to make that very apparent when you're completing the declaration. And even over the phone, as we're speaking to you, we make sure that folks understand that the information we are completing, as much as it's on an honors basis to complete that declaration, if we do find that information is false, there will be a fine.
So I had a really interesting situation for myself, Joseph, is that I owned a home in Barrhaven. I was in the process of selling it when this was being asked to be done. So I did that because I met the criteria. But I tried to do it for my brand new home, and it came up not eligible. And so walk us through why somebody might receive something like that. Is it because it's a brand new property?
So if you have a brand new property, so really the folks that we're asking to declare are folks that we have received an assessment from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, meaning that MPAC, or the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, has assessed your property as being a new home and added it to the city's property tax roll. If that hasn't happened, you may not receive a notice of declaration from the city and you may not be able to declare. Typically, it takes MPAC about a year or so from the time you occupy your property to be able to get to you and sort of determine that this is a new property and add it onto the city's tax roll. So whereas you may not be able to make a declaration this year, next year you'll likely be able to do so.
How many properties do we think, Joseph, at the end of the day will actually fall within this vacant unit standard that you've set?
So when we went to council with our report to have this approved, we had a couple of estimates that we put together. Not anything that we could truly substantiate, but this was based off of various approaches that we took. So we estimated about 1,650 to 2,500 vacant unit tax that this tax could apply to.
Okay.
I think within the next month or two, I think we'll see that whether that actually stands up and whether we have more or less. But I do feel that we will certainly fall within that range or perhaps even exceed it.
So you have 27,000 outstanding right now. Let's say right now we've inspired 20,000 people, Joseph, to get on and fill that out. You're left with 7,000. Let's just make even numbers. Let's say 3,000 are actually vacant. You're left with 4,000. So with those 4,000 people that have kind of dug their heels in for whatever reason, have not done this very, very small task, are they receiving a tax bill of that extra 1%?
So this year, our standard deadline is March 16th, which is looming. Once we get past March 16th, we go into a period called an extended deadline, which runs until April 30th. In a normal year, you would normally receive a charge of $250 if we don't hear from you by March 16th. This year, council, because this is the first year we're rolling this out, council will waive that $250 fee. Now, if we don't hear from you by the extended deadline, which is April 30th, you will receive a property tax bill, and with the vacant unit tax added onto it.
Joseph, I have learned so much from you today. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam.
I get a little bit nervous normally talking to treasurers, but you've made it very lovely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so
Joseph Mahoney joining us today, Deputy City Treasurer of Revenue for the City of Ottawa. Super easy explanation about the vacant unit tax today. Really appreciate Joseph's time. Very, very helpful. If you haven't done it, if you're one of the 27,000, jump on there today. Make Joseph's day. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Justice.
And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions.
That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support.
Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, as Canadians, we love our chips. Join us as we put an Italian twist on a crowd favorite, burgers and fries.
You're Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, March 7th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -6 feels like -15. In Smiths Falls, -5 feels like -13. And here's what's making news this hour. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen are in Kingston to meet with Canadian soldiers who have been sent to Poland to help Ukrainian refugees. The two will also be talking about climate change, gender equality, and ways to boost trade and investment. And later in the evening, von der Leyen will address the House of Commons, and tomorrow morning she's due to meet with Governor General Mary Simon. A local conservation authority has put out a warning about spring flooding in the Mississippi and Carp watersheds. They say the snowpack so far this winter has been above normal, and that could lead to some flooding. The conservation authority saying while snowpack is not the only way to predict flooding, it is one of the several contributors. They will also be looking at rainfall in the spring and how quickly temperatures rise to melt the snowpack. City News time is 10:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And if you're diagnosed early, 100% will live at least 5 years or longer. But if you're diagnosed at 4th stage or later, guess what happens? That goes down to 29%. 29%. They're going to die. That's our dads, our brothers, that don't need to die. We know some people can't afford to get the test. That's what this is about. And I'm saying to you guys, I'm begging you, I've done this 3 or 4 times now. There's no need for men to die.
All those opposed, please rise and remain standing until is by the clerk.
Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Lecce.
Mr. Lecce.
Ms. Mulrooney.
Ms. Mulrooney.
Mr. Calandra.
Mr. Calandra.
Mr. Fideli.
Mr. Fideli.
Ms. Jones-Defrin-Callahan.
Ms. Jones-Defrin-Callahan. The ayes are 32, the nays are 72.
The ayes being 32 and the nays being 72, I declare the motion lost.
I can't even tell you the disappointment I have over this. It is so upsetting to me. Wayne Gates has been working very, very hard to try and get those PSA tests for Ontario men covered by the healthcare system. Wayne and I spoke a couple of months ago, and when he brought this idea forward, we had such a lovely discussion, and I told him about my dad who died of prostate cancer, and I was absolutely certain, and maybe naively so, that political stuff, I can't think of another word because I'm afraid I'm going to swear, political stuff could be put aside and people could see that this was such an easy way to save the lives of men in this province. But no, politics more important at Queen's Park. I wanted to spend some time today with Wayne Gates. Hi, Wayne.
Sam, how are you?
I've got to tell you, my friend, I honestly, in my heart of hearts, thought that you and I would be having a very different conversation today. Of course, NDP MPP for Niagara Falls, Fort Erie, and Niagara-on-the-Lake, one of the most beautiful parts of this country and of this province. Wayne, I just don't understand how this didn't get passed.
Well, I'm very disappointed. This is my second radio interview today, and I talked to Mr. Tim Dennis, who has the same type of job that you have in a radio station, and he had the test done early. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he's still alive. I talked to you today. I talked to you a couple months ago in November, I believe it was, and you brought tears to my eyes when you said that your dad had passed away, and I knew they weren't going to pass it. Quite frankly, when we put the motion forward on late Thursday afternoon, when the only speaker the Conservatives put up was Robin Martin, who's a Parliament assistant to the Minister of Health, and I said to the minister that she's not going to get prostate cancer. As you know, you have to. It's those with a prostate that we're trying to save their lives with early detection. So disappointed. I'll be honest with you. It brings tears to my eyes sometimes when I talk about this, that my father-in-law didn't die, but he got tested and went through prostate cancer. My brother-in-law is going through prostate cancer right now, today as we speak. It's all around us. And why this government is, quite frankly, playing politics when everything out there says this makes sense. You know, if the PSA covered by OIP, the cost to our system is $9. If it's covered by a private company, it's $35 to $50 out of pocket. If it's covered and early detection, it's going to cost the government about $3 million. And here's the part that really jumps out at me to say to the government, this makes sense, is that it will also save the healthcare $60 million, and it would save men's lives. This is a disease that strikes men. It takes them way too early if they don't get the testing. I think I really appreciate you playing the clip. I think you could tell in the clip that I was almost brought to tears in the house. I'm very passionate about this because there's no need for men to die. There's no need, I don't know the full circumstance around your dad, but I can certainly use Tim as an example. He was very passionate on the radio today. I know Larry Gibson, who came to the press conference. He was 48 years old when he got the test. He was lucky enough. He had enough money he could pay for it. He now runs a golf tournament to raise money so people can still get the test that can't afford it. He was 48. He's now 65. So that's 20 years longer he's lived because he got tested early. This makes no sense to anybody. I have no idea why they chose to go the route they did, other than they're really, and you're seeing it quite frankly in Ottawa, where they're going down the road of privatized healthcare, and this would have took money out of the pockets of a private company.
Wayne, let's drop a little bit of a truth bomb, okay? Mm-hmm. So the truth is, the majority of men, not all men, the majority of men avoid anything to do with healthcare. Mm-hmm. They're typically not the ones going, oh, I need an annual physical. They're typically not the ones going, I haven't felt well for a few weeks. Maybe I should make an appointment, right? And once again, not everybody, but a lot of the times they're influenced by the women in their lives. Their daughter, their wife, their sister might say, you should probably go check that out. So, and I share that truth bomb because anything we can do to make it easier is a step in the right direction, right? If it's going to cost somebody money, if it's that tiny barrier, and sometimes $30, $40, $50 is not a tiny amount for people, but if that tiny barrier could be removed, cost the government $9, and in the end, it's pay me now or pay me later. Wayne, you know that and I know that. Right? Yep. You'd rather not spend $3 million now to spend $60 million down the road. It makes no sense to me. And what makes me so disappointed about this is that each and every one of them, Wayne, we've just named all the people in our lives. Each and every one of them has the same, family makeup as we do. They've got brothers and sons and husbands. I don't understand why this was such a difficult thing to get through Queen's Park.
I think the reason why I'm saying is because they've really gone down the privatization. I mean, everything you're saying is so accurate because when you get prostate cancer, as you know, it affects the whole family. It affects their partner. It affects the kids. It affects the nieces, the nephews. It affects everybody. And if we know that if we can get the test early and keep your father or your brother or your grandfather alive just by taking the test, and one of the barriers is that the $35 to $50 is a barrier, and it certainly is to a lot of people, especially people that are less fortunate than others. And we could save their life, and I have no idea. And the fact that the only speaker that they brought up was a female that doesn't have a prostate and talked for about 4.5, 5 minutes. Made absolutely no sense to me. That's what sent the red flag. Knowing full well that, and you know this, you know the stats as well as I do, 10,500 people in the province of Ontario will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in this year alone. 1,750 will die. And that's 5 people will die of prostate cancer today. This is such an easy fix with not a lot of cost to the healthcare system, but save a lot of men. And just real quick, yesterday, the Minister of Labour, Monty McNaughton, was applauding himself because they've allowed 2 types of cancers to be covered for firefighters, which is great, covered with WSIB. But at the same day that he did that, he voted against supplying prostate cancer testing be covered for all men.
Now that doesn't make sense to me, Wayne.
It doesn't make sense on the same day. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying the firefighters shouldn't have all the coverage they need. We know that firefighters get lots of different cancers, and it's great. But on the very same day, when you have an opportunity, because what I want to say to the minister, I haven't seen him yet since yesterday, firefighters have prostates too. and if you really care about firefighters, then let's make sure they can get the test. It's just, and your story is just so heartbreaking because you lost somebody to prostate cancer, somebody that you love very dearly. You'll never get to see him again. That is very, very tough. And somebody that like you that follows the news knows this can be done very simple, and they've made it into something that didn't have to be.
And quite honestly, my father would have done anything than go to the doctor, like anything. And so that's why I sort of share that about, that it's just difficult to get a lot of men to care for their health. And whether you get that at stage 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, you don't want to be told, that you've got stage 4, any kind of cancer, but something like prostate cancer, which would, could have easily been detected. You're not giving up hope on me, though, right, Wayne? What's the next step? Is there a next step?
There absolutely is a next step. I want to put as much pressure on this government to change their mind, and I don't even have a problem. And maybe it's because it was brought forward by an NDP. Doesn't matter to me if a Conservative wants to bring it forward and say that they got the bill passed that they're going to cover PSA testing and save lives. Go ahead. But I put my that video that you played. It's on Twitter. It's on TikTok. It's on Facebook. We're encouraging people to share it. We're encouraging people to call the Conservative MPPs because I want to thank the Liberals. I want to thank the Greens and the Independents. They all voted to support the motion. It's just the Conservatives. So my suggestion, if you have Conservatives in your ridings, if you have call them and ask them why they're not going to do it. And like I said, it's not about who gets credit for passing a bill. This is all about trying to save men's lives. So, even my own, quite frankly. And I understand what you're saying because I'm a man and I don't always go to the doctor when I should, or I think it's something else or whatever. I mean, that's where men are. It's usually their wives that say, no, you got to go. It's usually how you end up going to the doctor. But let's get it done. And you have to put more pressure. The fact that you're talking about it on a radio station that has certainly a wide viewership, the fact that Tim Dennis this morning, he was very passionate this morning talking about his battle with prostate cancer and how important it was to get early detection. All those stories getting out will put more pressure on the Conservative government. And I'm saying to the Conservatives, take it yourself, take the motion yourself, just get it done. Let's try to save lives. If that's what the issue is, I don't know. I think it's because they're more concerned about private health care than they are about saving lives, quite frankly. But let's continue to put pressure. I thank your radio station, Sam. I thank you for agreeing to allow me to come and talk about it today. Same like Tim. The more we talk about it, the more pressure we put on these MPPs, Conservative MPPs, to say, listen, you have a chance to save lives. You have a chance to, for $3 million, save $60 million in our healthcare costs when they tell us they don't have any money for healthcare. All we can do is continue to put pressure, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And hopefully you can go to our Twitter or our TikTok and all our media and share with all your friends and try to put pressure on this government.
Don't give up, my friend. Don't give up, Wayne.
Oh no, I'm not. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm extremely disappointed, but I'm a fighter. I never give up on something that I feel so strongly about, and I know that the life I could save could be somebody's dad, it could be somebody's grandpa, it could be somebody's brother, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can to put pressure on this government to get this bill passed. And like I said, I'm giving an olive branch. Put it out yourselves and pass it. They got a majority government. They can pass it tomorrow. Men need it. We need to save lives. You only go around once. You're only on this earth for a short period of time. And if you can save my life, why not do it? Why not cover it by OHIP?
Wayne Gates, thank you so much for your leadership on this topic and everything you do for this province. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Sam, and stay safe.
You too. Wayne Gates joining us, NDP MPP for Niagara Falls, Fort Erie, and Niagara-on-the-Lake. And for anybody that needs to hear this today, if you are within a certain age, and I believe they're sort of starting at about 45, 50 years old, if you haven't had a PSA test, just get the baseline. And I'm sad to say you have to pay for it, but it's the case, it's the same price as a case of beer, and it's worth it. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand, in honor of one child's wish, to fuel the fire that will grant many more. Join the kingdom.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, it is a special edition because we are celebrating International Women's Day. Ariel Troster, City Councilor, joining us on the show, and she's going to tell us how you can build a better city for women. Also joining us is Care Canada. They'll tell us why it's so incredibly important to invest in women, and we'll talk about why women should be really touting themselves and talking more about their accomplishments. All that and more on Tuesday.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, if you're looking for something fantastic to do, we might have the answer for you. Tom McSorley joins me now, Executive Director of the Canadian Film Institute. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Sam.
Well, I have to tell you, my friend Lydia reached out to me to tell me about this film festival taking place in Ottawa, and I had absolutely no idea there was an international film festival here. So I wanted to tell everybody about it. So give us an idea, Tom, what we can expect.
Yeah, it's our third annual festival. So now that you know it exists, Sam, you cannot not know that anymore.
Exactly.
We started out online actually back in 2021. So and last year's model was kind of hybrid, but this year is full on in person. Yeah, it's 35 films from over 26 countries. And they will be shown at 3 venues in the city: the Ottawa Art Gallery, Alma Duncan Salon, the Bytown Cinema, and the Mayfair Theatre. And it all kicks off tomorrow night, the 8th of March, International Women's Day, with a very funny film by a very talented young woman from Toronto. Her name is Chandler Levac, and her movie is called I Like Movies, which is an appropriate title to open a film festival with, because it's this coming-of-age story of this kind of film nerd set in 2003, and he wants to be a filmmaker, and he dreams of going to New York City, and he works at a Blockbuster video rental place. Remember those?
Oh, yes.
So he's, it's kind of a wonderful, sweet kind of Valentine to film geeks everywhere. But it has an Ottawa angle as well. He might actually end up at Carleton studying film, but I won't give any. No spoilers. Yeah, so it was like the perfect opening film for an Ottawa film festival. So there's everything from that into we have the latest drama from Indigenous filmmaker Marie Clements, her film Bones of Crows, about this extraordinary woman who survived the residential school system and ended up being a decoder in World War II for the Canadian military, using her Cree language to help create codes for the military to help win the war. Everything from that to films from Romania, from Spain, from Spain. We even have a film in the opening weekend from Kazakhstan, believe it or not. So you can travel all over the world without leaving Ottawa in the next 2 weeks. We run from March 8th to the 19th, and it's a lot of fun. We have some filmmakers coming to visit to present their work at the various venues. For example, Marie Clements will be at that screening of Bones of Crows on Saturday night at the Bytown. So we're really thrilled with the selection. There's lots of variety. There's, comedies, there's historical drama, there's psychological drama, there's everything you could ask for. And the other thing that we do at IFO, which most festivals don't do, is we show a short film with each feature. So, in the old days, you go to a movie, you would see a little short, and then the full feature would play. Well, we've kind of restarted that as a tradition. So for every feature film you go see, you'll have the ability to see a younger talent that's maybe up and coming, and you might see that filmmaker in a few years having delivered a feature film. So it's all about celebrating movies, because we like movies, Sam.
I love it. And Tom, it's really reasonable to participate as well. Give us a sense of where the movies are going to be shown.
Yeah, there's 3 venues. The main venue is the Alma Duncan Salon, which is part of the Ottawa Art Gallery right downtown. That's a 250-seat, very intimate theater with an enormous screen, really great venue. Then we have the Bytown Cinema, which everybody knows is the largest of the independent cinemas in town. It holds 650, and it's a beautiful venue. And the Mayfair over in just in little Ottawa South by Lansdowne there, a great venue as well, kind of a funky place. It's an old, I think it was built, in the 1940s. It's got a great atmosphere, and it holds 350. So those are our 3 main venues, and there'll be parties and red carpets and all that other stuff happening.
Well, how
in
fun.
fact, we have a very small red carpet, Sam, that you can walk on and take your picture on tomorrow night at I Like Movies if people are coming to the opening night film, which I hope they do.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, and the website is spectacular, so easily laid out, beautifully to navigate. Congratulations on the International Film Festival here in Ottawa, and look forward to getting caught up again, Tom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam, for having me.
My pleasure. Tom McSorley joining us, Executive Director of the Canadian Film Institute. Amazing. This is something so fun to be able to do in our city. And I was just taking a look at all the different movies, and the prices are, I think you can get general admission for $15, or you can buy 6-film pack for $60. So you're not doing much in the city for that kind of money. So that's fantastic. We want to support them as much as we can. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, last week I was fangirling over Paul Reiser. You remember Paul Reiser from Mad About You, Stranger Things. He is just everywhere, stand-up comedian, really nice guy. And he is coming to Meridian Theatre, Centerpoint Theatre, starting, he's here for one night on March 21st. So you will want to be there. And we chatted with Paul. I want to share a little bit about our chat with you now.
I can look now as the people are filing in, and I can go, all right, those people sort of my age, 40s, 50s, 60s, those are they mad about you people. The other people, the older people, those are Kaminsky Method fans. I can see the younger Stranger Things fans, and I can see a lot of the boys fans. I go, okay, that's those guys right there.
And let's put it this way. He is award-winning, a heck of a nice guy, and we want to send you. Do you want to go see Paul Reiser on City News? We're going to give away 2 tickets. We want you to call. Aaron is standing by. Give us a shout, 613-750-1310. Caller number 10, 613-750-1310 to go see Paul Reiser. Now, he is really super funny. He talks about things that are probably happening in your house. So he's just very, very relatable. And we look forward to sending you. Aaron's waiting for your call, 613-750-1310. Once again, caller number 10. And I can't wait to tell you who is heading there. Maybe it's you when we return after this short break here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. That was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
This is Meg from Fit Over 50. On our next episode, we're going to be doing a full body workout using resistance bands. You can find bands at any local sporting goods store. So go get yours and hope to see you then.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Tuesday, March 7th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow -6. In Smiths Falls, it is -5. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. If you have a property in this city, you want to listen to this. There's just about a week left to fill out and submit your vacant tax declaration. The tax is meant to increase affordable housing by discouraging owners of properties from having livable homes sitting empty for 6 months or more a year.
We have at this point in time 296,000 declarations completed, which is about 92% of the total number of declarations that we need completed. And we still have about 27,000 folks that we haven't heard from, so we're hoping that we will hear from them in the coming days before that deadline.
Joseph Mohini is the Deputy City Treasurer for Revenues, and he's reminding you that the process to submit your information is easy, it is fast, and can be done online, in person, or even over the phone. And there's a $250 fine for a late declaration, although that fee is being waived this year. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
And the clouds will increase. We've already reached our guaranteed high for the day. It was -2 very early this morning. For the rest of the day, we'll sit at about -4. A few flurries today, tonight, and again tomorrow. -7 for the low, 0 tomorrow. Sun and cloud for Thursday and Friday. Milder highs near 2. For today, already reached our guaranteed high, -2.
City News time is 11:01. So how are you feeling about the economy? According to a new public opinion poll, a majority of Canadians think the economy is on the wrong path. And with interest rates and inflation still a major problem, it is getting even tougher to pay their monthly bills. Here's City News senior business editor Mike Apple.
Household worries are on the rise about finances and economics. The Maru Public Opinion Survey in this morning on how Canadians are feeling about the economy right now shows the most pessimism since October of last year, and it actually matches the previous low back in 2021. And 66% of Canadians think the economy is right now on the wrong track. Even though fewer people are worried about losing their job because of the tight labor market, it's not taking away worries about paying the monthly bills with rising inflation and interest rates. 28% say their personal financial situation has gotten worse. 6 in 10 say they likely don't have 2 months of savings to cover any unexpected costs. They're also worried about investing in the market right now, coming off what was a turbulent year for stocks and bonds. The survey results will add to the pressure on the Trudeau government to respond with the upcoming spring budget focused on the cost of living. At the City News Business Center, I'm Mike Apple.
And the senior director of Dalhousie University's Agri-Food Analytics Lab is hoping a parliamentary committee looking into food inflation isn't just political theatre. Sylvain Charlebois says Loblaws, Galen Weston and other grocery chain CEOs will face questions in Ottawa and need to explain recent profits. With food sales jumping 8.4% last quarter for Loblaw alone, Charlebois tells City News that MPs need to ask some hard questions.
These companies actually make money selling cosmetics, prescription drugs, clothing, but it's important, I think, for Canadians to know exactly how much profits are generated from food sales. The morality of selling food is very different, as you can imagine.
He says he would also like to know if CEOs support a grocery code of conduct that the feds are working on aimed at enhancing transparency and fair dealing in the grocery business. And Ontario's patient ombudsman says his office received more than 3,300 complaints in 2021 and 2022, including an increasing number about poor quality of care in the healthcare system in this province. Craig Thompson tracked a 43% increase in complaints from patients and caregivers who said they were treated with a lack of sensitivity and caring, especially in EDs. His office also received 22 complaints about alleged assaults by hospital security guards. I am Damilola Unime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for joining us here on City News. Definitely over the last couple of weeks, a lot of the attention has gone to the possibility of interference by China in our federal elections. And this has been top of mind for us here at City News. We wanted to spend some time today with Elliot Tepper, Distinguished Senior Fellow at Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs, and of course a contributor here at City News, and of course working with David Smith on the show that airs Sunday at 9, The World with Elliot Tepper. And Elliot joins me now. Hello.
Good morning, Sam.
It's wonderful to spend time with you, and I always enjoy our time together, Elliot, because you seem to explain global affairs in a way that, you know, we can sort of understand the impact here on Canadians. So let's talk a little bit about these allegations. And although we've been focusing on China, make no mistake about it, eyes are on Russia as well in terms of any interference. Give us a little bit of a breakdown of where we sit today.
Canada has a heightened awareness of the possibility of influence campaigns by hostile powers, and it's important to also note that Robert Fife, who's been breaking this story, has included right-wing extremist elements coming from the States also as a possible threat. So Canada is an open democratic society. Forces sometimes inimical to democracy and certainly to Canadian interest take advantage of that openness, and they too try to influence Canadian politics. We should make a clear differentiation here between the normal operations that all states undertake, which is soft power. Canada and all other states like to say, we'll go around the world and try to create a favorable image by all kinds of activities inside for other states. But when the line is crossed, and here's the definition, when the line is crossed from soft power into influence operations, it's when they are covert, coercive, and corrupt. And what's being charged now is that China has been caught doing the latter.
And walk us through what they were caught doing exactly, Elliot.
One of the interesting things to me, well, let me start at the top on this one. I think one of the important things to emphasize here is that the only reason we know a lot of what's going on is because Canada has a free and open society, including a dynamic press. You are part of that, Sam. So we have an open media here that's doing its job, and I think we should treasure that, and we should acknowledge that. So what's going on now is, and again, it's a bit of a surprise to me. What we're hearing now the past 2 weeks is a lot of specificity, which is raising the temperature on this, which is bringing it to the fore. But in fact, this is not a news story at all. This was broken at least in November 2022 when parliamentary committees heard testimony from CSIS, from intelligence operatives, from also Elections Canada, that there have been attempts to influence Canada's elections. President Xi Jinping was addressed personally by Prime Minister Trudeau in Bali at the G20 conference in November.
I remember that.
Saying, hey, we know you're interfering in our election. So what's happening now is that it's becoming more documented and therefore more urgent to deal with. And the variety of ways this is being addressed inside Canada is going to lead to two things, I hope. The very first is that we have to realize that it's the overseas diaspora that's being attacked and is most vulnerable to foreign influence. And that can't be allowed. These are people living in Canada, and they may have family back home subject to coercion. We have to protect all Canadians, including diaspora elements which might be vulnerable, and not just from China. We have the world's population inside Canada. It's one of our great advantages. The second thing is, out of all of this is going to come not just the realization, but action that we have to up our game in a variety of ways to prevent foreign interference, and that includes, again, perhaps right-wing extremist interference in our domestic affairs, and in particular, our elections.
Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. I spoke with another guest yesterday in regards to this, and the kind of sort of the way we were talking about is how would China be reacting to the kerfuffle that this has caused in Canada, and the response really was that this is exactly what China would want, right? Infighting within Canadians. So talk to us a little bit about the reaction to China, about the call for an inquiry. I mean, how are they viewing Canada right now?
They are saying, and we need another distinction, which experts in this area have also drawn up to our attention. There's a key difference here between evidence and intelligence reporting. What we've had so far is leaks in our press on intelligence reporting, providing details of what was already being reported earlier, as I just pointed out. The evidence that so far China has been involved has not been demonstrated conclusively. That's why so far we've not yet kicked out any diplomats. What China is saying is that Canada is relying on hearsay, it's on intelligence reports which are faulty, it's gossip, it's all an attempt to smear the good name of China, and Canada should not be doing that. So I think that's been the immediate response. When it comes to the point that evidence rather than intelligence reporting can be documented, then yes, Canadian diplomats and China may end up being kicked out in response to us forcing actions against particular diplomats who behaved in an inappropriate way.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of Canadians were surprised last week to learn about Han Dong and about, an MP being brought to the attention of the Prime Minister in terms of intelligence by CSIS. I mean, I think that was surprising to Canadians. Should we be surprised, Elliot?
Yes, in a way we should be surprised because we don't expect interference at that level in our elections. We expect our elections to be free, fair, and open, and not subject to coercion and covert and perhaps corrupt activities. The reports earlier, a year ago, November, to Parliament were that the infrastructure of our electoral processes are safe. That is, there's been no infiltration of the actual mechanics that could change the outcome of an election. What we're finding out now is that these influence operations may have perhaps targeted successfully individual ridings and possibly affected the outcome of particular candidates being elected or rejected. And that, of course, is extremely serious and should be investigated.
Mm-hmm. And I think when we see officials meeting that are, in terms of China and Russia and some of the discussions that are going on there, should all that make us nervous as well, Elliot?
Yes, one of the aspects of this that is basically today's news is that China has a new foreign minister, and the new foreign minister has come out in a blistering attack saying China and Russia are going to continue to work together. There was some speculation that China and Russia might not be as close now as earlier. China just put out a peace plan, which in its opening statement said no state should violate the territorial integrity of another. But that would lay open the possibility China would break with Russia. That's clearly not the case. These are two forces inimical to democracies of the world, and they are both influence operators who are trying basically to create chaos and confusion and dissension within democracies using our open societies, our open processes to do so.
And you're such a wealth of knowledge, Elliot. I mean, this topic I know you've been talking about a lot longer than what maybe Canadians have been aware of over the last couple of weeks. What would you want us to know, Elliot, about how we should move forward in this country? Should Canadians be demanding this of the Prime Minister, that this inquiry actually happen?
The focus right now, I'm beginning to be a bit disturbed by it, whether there is or is not a public inquiry. Perhaps there should be, perhaps there's not. The people who have earned the respect of Canadians because of their service in the past, the chief electoral officer and some of our most senior security and intelligence operatives have said, leaders have said, yes, we must have this. Others have said no. I'm not as concerned about the mechanisms and processes, but the outcomes. There's a lot of, because of what we're talking about right now, Sam, there's many suggestions in the air about what we need to do to go forward. We must, I think, up our game considerably. That's going to be the main message of these interference, now more or less documented interference operations inside Canada. And it's not, again, just only China. There's Russia, but there's also, if you could name a few others, Iran, perhaps North Korea. There's other inimical forces to Canadian democracy. And, of course, the right-wing extremism that Bob Fife keeps keeps talking about. So the bottom line of all this is we will end up, I think, better prepared. We'll have more procedures. We will have more I was going to say laws, but we will have more ways of proceeding going forward as a result of what has been now the last 2 weeks the primary focus of attention.
And to your point earlier, Elliot, about the media and the work of Bob Fife and the work of journalists on this topic. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about this today if it wasn't sort of, brought to the forefront and some of this investigative work has been done. So really, I feel let down by our government that this wasn't something that they were bringing to our attention. And it sounds like, and that's why it's sort of, I think it smells a little bit for Canadians.
Well, I think it's why I also opened up my general comment on this entire affair, is to draw attention to the fact that we have a vibrant press, a vibrant media process in Canada, and that we should be treasuring that and protecting it, because around the world it's journalists such as yourself and others that are in fact the targets of governments and their agencies. So that's the first thing. We have an open media, and we do have to appreciate the effort that they've done, although there are questions raised about the leaking of intelligence operations into the public, and that's going to be a subset of the conversation. I think the whole question whether the government has been moving fast enough or more directly and more openly is a fair question to raise. It is being raised effectively. The government is responding. Whether they're doing so sufficiently or in depth will remain a subject of public controversy. But the bottom line, again, coming out of all of this, I believe, is going to be an enhanced appreciation of the need for protection against influence operations and the means to do so.
Elliot, I always enjoy our time. Thank you.
Oh, very good to talk to you, Sam.
Always a pleasure. Elliot Tepper joining us, Distinguished Senior Fellow, Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs. Of course, a contributor here to City News, and he is part of a wonderful show. I learned so much on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. with The World with Elliot Tepper, hosted by the one and only David Smith. We appreciate Elliot's time today. When we come back, we're going to get an update on the PZAC strike. Alex Sillis is going to join us, PZAC Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support. Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will endeavor to describe the feeling on this ship.
The American ship is just trailing the Blue Nose.
Angus should never have agreed to this last race. She's too old.
Eddie!
Johnson, halyard back! Get to it, man!
Here's there's some kind of difficulty.
Seems to be something loose up there, I believe.
Her topsails foul!
Can't see a man.
Just once more, little girl, and you can rest.
Her last race and still undefeated, the Blue Nose out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia was fastest in the world for almost 20 years.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. Into the deep unknown. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support. Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. We wanted to get caught up today with Alex Sillis, and Alex is the regional executive vice president for the National Capital Region for PZAC. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. We've been speaking a lot over the last little while because there is a possibility of a strike. Bring me up to date, Alex. Where do we sit today?
So currently we are in strike votes. We are active members are actively taking strike votes for Treasury Board tables. That's the core federal public service, as well as our members over at CRA. So we're taking strike votes up until April 11th, at which point we will be back at the table in mediation with the employer, with Treasury Board. But at that time, we expect to have a very strong, very positive strike mandate. And the message we're trying to give to the employer is that we need them to meet us, to take us seriously on our proposals around wages, around anti-racism training, around telework language, and all the other improvements we're seeking in this collective agreement to avoid a strike. Because our goal, the union's goal, the members' goal, is not to go on strike. Our goal is to achieve a fair contract and fair wages for workers in the federal public service. And give us a sense of which workers we're referring to, Alex. Well, we're talking about the core federal public service. All told, it's a group of 155,000 workers. They work in all of our government departments. So Health Canada, as I mentioned, CRA, Transport Canada, you name it. Any worker in the federal public service right now, the core, we're proceeding to strike votes. And in terms of wages, because that's always what people think about when they think about strikes, what are you looking for from the government in terms of wages? Look, I think we're all feeling the rise in inflation, the rise in the cost of living, and workers in the federal public service are feeling that too. I think there's a feeling across working people, whether you're public sector, private sector, whether you're union, non-union, folks are struggling to make ends meet and to keep up with the cost of living. And workers didn't cause inflation, so workers shouldn't have to be the ones to pay for it. So what we're seeking here is wages that keep up with the cost of living. We're proposing 4.5% as an average on 3 years. We feel that's fair. We feel that's reasonable. And we also feel that it's important to set that standard, not just for PSAC members, but for all workers coast to coast to coast, because everybody deserves wages that keep up with the cost of living. And when we talk about bargaining in the federal public service, we're talking about the largest bargaining group in Canada. So we very much feel that this fight is also about setting a standard for all workers. And Alex, is there anything in terms of benefits that's on the table? Health benefits, things like that gets negotiated in the public service healthcare plan, so that's a different thing that we're talking about. But we are seeking, we're pushing back against some concessions that the employer is trying to impose on leaves, certain types of leaves and things like that, and we're seeking to improve the language there. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you a little bit about the issue of work from home, the return to the office. Is this part of what you're talking about as well? Yeah, it's definitely a priority at the table. I would say the biggest priority is wages. Recognizing that for a lot of workers in the federal public service, they didn't have the option to work from home. They continued showing up to a physical work site throughout the pandemic. But for a lot of our other members, they were asked and they had to completely adapt their lives around remote work and do that while still providing the services that Canadians relied on. So for these workers who've completely changed their lives around remote work, if there's no reason to force them back to the office, they should be able to have some options and some flexibility with their manager to be able to request a hybrid work arrangement, a remote work arrangement. A lot of these workers were hired with the expectation that they would be full-time remote work. A lot were told by their managers when the pandemic hit that they would be going full-time into telework and that they're never going back to the offices. So, but all we're really seeking is just a fair and universal process for workers to be able to request remote work or hybrid work arrangements that's applied fairly across the board, across all federal departments. We're not asking for language that says you can telework forever for as long as you feel like it. We're just asking for a process and for requests to telework to not be unreasonably denied.
And, you know, you broke it down beautifully in terms of 120,000 federal public service workers with the Treasury Board and 35,000 with the Canadian Revenue Agency. Now, when I think about CRA, I think about taxes, I think about income tax. How would this impact this tax season?
Well, I think most Canadians think like you. They think of tax season. They think of taxes when they think of taxation workers, of course. But I would also add that these are the workers, along with workers at Service Canada, these are the workers at CRA who processed all the CERB payments that Canadians were relying on during the pandemic. But to answer your question, how would it impact tax season? I mean, I think, you know, we, PSAC members, form the core of the federal public service. We are the backbone of the federal government. The government does not run without PSAC members, and we're reaching a point here at the CRA tables, at the Treasury Board tables, where if the employer can't meet us on our proposals, can't revise their mandate in order to put forward a fair and reasonable wage offer and to meet us on our other proposals that we were hoping to discuss at the table, this strike will absolutely shut down the federal government. When PSAC members at the borders went on strike, they did a one-day work to rule, and that brought the borders to a shutdown. So I think workers in the federal public service are realizing the strength and the power that we have, and are fed up with getting scraps off the table, are fed up with not getting wages that keep up with cost of living. I think workers across the country are feeling this, and we know that when we unite, when we show our solidarity, we have the power to force the employer back to the table. Again, we're hoping to avoid that. PSAC members are incredibly dedicated to the work that they do in service of Canadians. We would much rather meet with the employer, negotiate in good faith, and be able to come to an agreement that way, and that is our goal. But we are telling the employer if they don't meet us with a fair deal, members are prepared to go on strike.
And let me ask you, we only have about 30 seconds, Alex, but you know, we're talking about 155,000 Canadians. How do you think the other 33 million Canadians feel about these demands?
Well, I would say that, you know, most Canadians realize that the services they need from the federal government, the services they rely on, those services are provided by workers. They're provided by PSAC members. It's not the politicians, it's not the ministers, it's not the managers that are supporting Canadians, that have supported Canadians throughout the pandemic and continue showing up for Canadians. It's PSAC members, it's workers in the federal public service. And I think also Canadians are also struggling with the rising cost of living, with the wage inequality that exists in this country. I think all workers are fed up with that. And again, workers didn't cause inflation and shouldn't have to pay for it. So as I said, this fight is about a fair contract for workers in the federal government, but it's also about setting a standard for all workers coast to coast to coast.
Alex, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Alex Sillis joining us, PSAC Regional Executive Vice President for the National Capital Region. We're getting ready for a great lunch today. You'll want to stay with us for that. Stay with us now on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, as Canadians, we love our chips. Join us as we put an Italian twist on a crowd favorite, burgers and fries.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, March 7th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -6. In Smiths Falls, it is -5. And here's what's making news this hour. A new transitional housing program for women experiencing homelessness is coming to the capital. The new 20-bed housing program is a partnership between the YMCA and the City of Ottawa. The facility will be within the YMCA Sheckman residence on Argyle Avenue in the downtown area. Residents will have access to private rooms, shared bathrooms and kitchens on sites. There'll be 24/7 counseling services, job search assistance and other support. There's more information at ymcaottawa.ca. And over 90% of vacant unit tax declarations have been submitted. Joseph Mahoney, a Deputy City Treasurer of Revenue, tells the Laprade show about 27,000 property owners are yet to submit their declaration. Now, to get yours in before the deadline, which is next week, next Thursday, you can either submit it online, over the phone, or in person at the Mary Pitt Center at 100 Constellation Drive. The deadline to submit the information is next Thursday at 11:59 p.m. There's a $250 fine for late declaration, but that has been waived this year. City News time is 11:33. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we are back on City News. Thank you so much for spending time with us. In a little bit, we're going to get caught up with Ben Wise. He is with the Historical Society of Ottawa. We're going to be taking a look back on 3 years ago. What was happening 3 years ago in this world? We had no idea what was coming for us. Ben Wise is going to talk to us a little bit about the first 90 days of COVID. So Ben will be with us in a little bit. But first, we wanted to spend some time today with Lyra Evans, board chair with the Ottawa Carleton District School Board. Hello, Lyra.
Hi.
Lyra, you're always so great about coming on and talking about some of the difficult issues that school boards are facing. Today, it's about money. Talk to me a little bit about the proposed budget cuts.
So the school board is in a bit of a pinch when it comes to our budget. We have an in-year deficit, which has been exacerbated by inflation and by staffing outages, as many of our students have been getting sick and many of our educators have been getting sick, and that's caused us to have to pay additional supply teachers above and beyond what we've paid in previous years and above and beyond what we're budgeted for. So the vast majority of our funding comes in from the province, and the province allocates a certain amount of money according to a formula for supply teachers, for occasional teachers. And when those teachers call out sick, when their kids call out, or when their kids are sick and they have to stay home to take care of them, that causes us to have to bring in supply teachers. And we've seen cost pressures within this year accordingly, in addition to inflationary pressures. When it's starting to look at the next year's budget, the province has already announced that the funding they had provided for COVID is ending. Those went into providing supports to students to make sure that they weren't experiencing learning loss over the pandemic. Those went into additional custodial hours to make sure that everything was clean. And so unless something changes at the provincial level, there's likely to be a very difficult conversation at this school board.
And how much money are we talking about, Lyra?
So the in-year deficit is between $9 and $39 million. And we spent out of reserves in the last year $9 million. We expected to spend out of reserves $9 million. And so when it comes to the budget next year, we don't have reserves left because we have spent most of our reserve money over the course of the pandemic. And so we have to start from a point of there's $9 million in cuts that we need to find. We do have the benefit of being a growing board. Funding is allocated by the province on a per pupil basis. So for every student that we have, we get a little bit of extra money. And so because there are more students entering the system, because Ottawa is a growing city, the public board is a growing board, that number won't be a full $9 million, but we're going to get a more fulsome report about this towards the end of March as we work our way through the budget process.
And Lyra, when it comes to what you referred to as difficult conversations, where do you start when you look at that budget document? Where does the board sort of start to look for some efficiencies or some cuts, unfortunately?
Mm-hmm. So the first question that we sort of ask ourselves is, what if everybody had 4% less budget? What if every department had 4% less? And with some departments that doesn't work so well with. You can't really, we have collective agreements, and so you can't just reduce that line item by 4%. And it begins to become questions of where are we spending money we are not directly funded for. So we spend more money than we are allocated on special education. We spend more money than we are allocated on transportation for the French immersion program. We spend more money on the equity programs and the supports for students who are struggling. We spend more money than we are funded for on mental health supports. And these are all things that we as a board value, we think are important. And that's why we have decided to spend more money than we are allocated on those line items. It just becomes a question of, well, now you have to make choices, now you have to prioritize.
So it's not just as easy, Lyra, as reaching out to Stephen Lecce, the Minister of Education in this province, and saying, we need another $9 million, Minister.
So every school board across the province has written or has similar asks. Inflation, the cost of fuel, the cost of stuff has really impacted the education system. And so we have seen OBSPA, which is the provincial association, make asks of the ministry to rebuild the funding formula to make sure that we are adequately funding public education, because everybody in the education sector wants to see a properly funded and well-functioning public education system.
100%. So do parents, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so I guess so when I hear you talk about that, and it makes me think that maybe the province isn't funding you enough. If it's every school board across this province, then is the system broken, Lyra?
I mean, I don't think institutions exist in a broken, not broken state. I don't know when you would be able to draw the line and say it's gone from working to broken. I think it's struggling. I think we're seeing it more with the more we stress individual teachers, the more we stress individual classrooms. We've seen increase in dysregulation. We've seen higher classroom numbers. We've seen the system has been having a hard time. We've got longer wait lists. We've got less supports for students with special education. And it becomes really tough because I don't know if you can say definitively the system is broken, and if so, when it was broken, or if this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But I would say the system is struggling.
And so thank you for that. Lyra Evans, Board Chair, Ottawa Carleton District School Board. So give me a sense of how much you spend and what the percentage of this $9 million is. Is this 1% of your budget? Is it 2%? Is it 10%?
Actually, $9 million is 0.1% of our budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we spend a little bit more than $1 billion a year. And so $9 million is less than the difference between the 2% projected inflation and the 6% inflation that we've seen.
So if the province, said maybe I'm dreaming a little bit, Lyra, but if the province sort of looked and said, obviously all of these school boards are struggling, and it's 0.1% of a budget, just to use this board as an example, and the province said, listen, we're going to make you all whole and change the funding, will that fix it long term, or is it just going to fix it this year?
So, like I said, the system is struggling, and if you patch the $9 million hole we have this year and moving forwards, is that going to fix some of the structural issues that we're seeing? Is that going to fix the amount of students who need EA time who don't get it? Is going to fix the amount of the length of wait times? No, it's going to patch the holes that we've seen materialize over the past pandemic.
What's the answer, Lyra?
The short answer is more funding. Rebuild the funding formula to meet need instead of a per pupil basis. Have an understanding that school boards also cannot be the sole provider of mental health support. We've seen an increasing mental health crisis amongst young people, and the school board sort of backfills when the healthcare system can't help. Students go to their guidance counselors, students go to their teacher or the psychologists and psychiatrists that the board has when they can't get mental health supports in the community. And we as a school board probably cannot be the backstop for that forever if there's an underfunding of the mental health system for youth.
Mm-hmm. And when we look around this city, we know that the city has changed. We used to have schools in certain areas, and those schools aren't populated anymore. They're sitting empty. Is there a move to sell some of these pieces of property that maybe are not being utilized?
So we've had a conversation about accommodation reviews. I don't know if you've been following. It's made the news a couple of times recently. So there's currently a moratorium on closing schools set out by the province. The province has said we're not going to close schools anywhere because there were a lot of school closures, particularly in rural areas, and communities have an attachment to their school. I don't think in Ottawa, we would look to close schools because Ottawa's committed to a densification. The city of Ottawa has committed to densifying, to intensification, to making sure there are more families per square kilometer. If we start closing schools, particularly inside the Greenbelt, and selling off that land and a condo tower goes on it, when we look to the future, 20 years from now, those communities will need a school because you'll have triple the number of families per square kilometer. And the ability of the school board to then purchase a large block of land inside the Greenbelt to meet that need would be non-existent. Mm-hmm. We see this happening in Toronto, where the Toronto Public School Board is very fiercely protective of all of the land that they have, because if they sell it and it becomes a condo tower, they're never being able to buy that land back.
I think about the Moody School in Bell's Corners. That was used a lot during the pandemic. Is that something that you would consider selling?
The Moody School. Are you talking about
D.A. Moody?
D.A. Moody. So again, this is the school board tries not to sell off any of its surplus property. Mm-hmm. Having a couple of spaces that we can use as flex spaces when there's a renovation that has to happen or a rebuild or an extension is really useful. So I know there was a renovation at a school, Elmdale, downtown, where the students had to get taken out for a year or two while they rebuilt the building. Having a space that sits empty that students can be moved into for those renovations is really helpful on a system level.
Mm-hmm. Really appreciate your time, Lyra. You always break things down and really help us understand, the pressures on the school board. How difficult is it to be the board chair, Lyra?
That's an interesting question. It's certainly different than I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
In a good or a bad way?
Some good, some bad. It's different.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're doing a great job, and one of the biggest roles I think of a board chair is to be open and to be able to come on and have conversations like this. And you've, as far as I know through my producers, you've never turned us down for a request, and that is really, really appreciated, Lyra.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for having me on.
Lyra Evans joining us today, board chair, Ottawa Carleton District School Board. No two ways about it. Lyra has a very important job and a very tough one. When we come back, we're going to look back 3 years later. What were you doing on March 7th of 2020? Boy, our lives have changed. We're going to talk all about it with Ben Wise from the Historical Society of Ottawa. He's going to be here. I hope you're here. Join us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, it is a special edition because we are celebrating International Women's Day. Ariel Troster, City Councilor, joining us on the show, and she's going to tell us how you can build a better city for women. Also joining us is Care Canada. They'll tell us why it's so incredibly important to invest in women. And we'll talk about why women should be really touting themselves and talking more about their accomplishments. All that and more on Tuesday.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, think back to March 7th of 2020. We heard a lot about COVID. We were starting to see, countries shutting down. We were starting to see all of this play out. And we had no idea what was coming for us. I remember on, I believe it was March 12th, I hosted an event for Big Brothers Big Sisters Ottawa at the 4th stage at the NAC. Tara Shannon was playing a concert that night, and I really wanted to enjoy the concert, so I shut my phone off and just enjoyed the concert. And when I turned my phone on, it had blown up. It was wild, like the amount of people that were trying to reach out to me. And I remember in particular that one of my really, really good friends, Simon, reached out and said, he phoned me on my way home, and he said, okay, the NBA has canceled their game and Tom Hanks has COVID. And I remember thinking, okay, things are changing. And we knew things from there changed very quickly. We wanted to take a look back. 3 years ago, what was happening? Ben Wise from the Historical Society of Ottawa is joining me now. It's hard to believe, Ben, it was 3 years ago, but in some ways it feels like a minute ago.
It does, Sam, and it was March 11th and March 12th that everything just
unfolded so quickly. As I mentioned last week, sometimes we look back at history, and sometimes we are witnesses to history. 3 years ago, it was a week that would turn all of our lives upside down all over the world. On the morning of March 11th, Dr. Anthony Fauci testified before the U.S. Congress that nation's 600 COVID-19 cases were only the beginning. And here, back in our nation's capital, our Prime Minister announced the first $1 billion to be spent in response to the pandemic and reassured Canadians that we will all get through this together. Shortly after noon on that day, the WHO, the World Health Organization, officially declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. Its epicenter had now arrived in Europe. And that evening was that NBA announcement. And we all recall that because it was astounding. They were suspending its season. When the NBA makes an announcement, when Tom Hanks talks about it, we pay attention.
Right.
But that was just the first of so many announcements to come. By the end of that week, most Ontarians had canceled their March break travel plans. Unfortunately, thousands of Quebec families had already traveled for their March break the week before, amplifying the spread of COVID across the Outaouais and throughout the province. The next 90 days were a mass of confusion and fear. People were getting sick and dying. We were afraid for ourselves, but especially for our loved ones. Panic buying began. Store shelves emptied of toilet paper. Shoppers stockpiled canned goods, flour, pasta, as if preparing for some kind of apocalypse. Hand sanitizer became liquid gold. Distillers put a halt to their production lines for whiskey and gin and started making hand cleaner themselves. We watched YouTube videos how to make masks from old socks. We learned how to wash our hands like surgeons and surgical nurses do. We disinfected doorknobs, and we tried in vain not to touch our faces. The elbow bump became the standard greeting if we dared approach someone closer than 2 meters. Ottawa police announced that their officers would wear gas masks if there weren't enough N5 masks to go around. We were told to keep ourselves locked in our homes. The toll of the sick and reported deaths mounted daily. Public officials in all countries continually contradicted each other and themselves as they scrambled, like the rest of us, to understand the new virus and advise us what precautions could we possibly take to prevent more people from dying. Nurses and other frontline workers were showing us the true meaning of heroism in the face of this global crisis. Sam, as host of this radio station's special daily COVID update show during those scary and chaotic first months of the pandemic, you had a unique front row seat through all of this. And I urge your listeners and members of the public to join us tomorrow afternoon to see and listen to you in person. Share your experience from this extraordinarily unique perspective. You stood by us virtually 7 days a week, connecting with and reassuring your listeners during the first 90 days of COVID, as we all struggled to come to grips with this devastating and frightening new health crisis. And we were so thrilled to announce last week, Sam, you've generously agreed to come and share your unique story for our Historical Society's monthly Speaker Series presentation tomorrow afternoon. And if I may say so, it'll be an honor on International Women's Day to be hearing from one of the many women who played such strong roles getting us through those first 90 days of COVID. Sam, you were on the air with your listeners 87 of those first 90 days of the pandemic. And I know for tomorrow's presentation, you're going to speak at length about what you saw, heard, and experienced. And I'm usually one who tells the stories in this segment. But this is your story to tell.
It's going to be so interesting, Ben. As you know, I've been preparing for a couple of weeks, and it's been such an interesting opportunity to reflect back, because I remember when we heard that obviously things were going to be changing here on obviously on this station. Our now mayor, Mark Sutcliffe, was on the station. Rob Snow was on the station, and we were playing podcasts kind of between 12 and 2, sort of maybe 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I decided to be a bit bold, and I reached out to our news director at the time, Glenys Lane, and I said, Glenys, I think we're going into a very difficult time. I would like to try and tell the kind stories of COVID, the community stories of COVID. And I'm wondering if we can maybe replace the podcast with something that I can do and really tell that community story. And I love Glennis Lane. She's amazing. And she did not skip a beat. She's like, that's exactly what we need to do, Sam. So I started on March the 16th, and I didn't have a day off until Mother's Day. And I'm not saying that to be heroic or anything like that, Ben, because there was nurses and doctors and first responders doing the exact same thing. But, you know, to be on 7 days a week, and I was not only on here in Ottawa, but on in other markets in the country, and to share some of at a time when there was so much negativity, to be able to share some of the moving moments, the emotional moments with our listeners here. I think it was certainly my honor.
What do you remember moving you the most during those 90 days? What were some of the stories that really affected you?
One that I'll never forget. We opened up the phone lines, and one gentleman called, and you could tell he was quite elderly, and he said, you know, Sam, I've never, ever been away from my wife for 63 years. I've seen my wife every single day for 63 years. And now I have to look at, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. And now I have to look at her through the window. I'm standing there looking at her, and she's very confused. And I said, well, tell me about your wife. And he just opened up, and he told us that he had 6 children and about his grandchildren. And it was one of those moments that, although we were talking a lot about long-term care and we were talking a lot about the effects of COVID on seniors, it was one of those moments that you heard that one person's story, but really was everybody's story. And he was so emotional, and it was beautiful. One tragic moment that I will never, ever forget in a million years was arriving here at the station in April, and I believe the date, and I don't want to get the date wrong, but I believe it was April 22nd, April 23rd, arriving on a Sunday morning to my producer. He was white, I'll be honest with you. He was ghost-like. He said, Sam, there's been something massive happen in Halifax. And I was going to be on air in Halifax, Kitchener, and Ottawa for 3 hours that day. And as I sat down to prepare for the show, what we realized was this mass shooting had taken place in beautiful Nova Scotia. And so it was a really interesting thing we had to do. We had to inform the people of Nova Scotia that might be listening at that time, but we also needed to keep telling stories to listeners, of course, in Ottawa and Kitchener, and I will never ever forget that moment either, Ben. And there's so many. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, I should say. It's really I'm so flattered that you've asked me to do that, and it really it warms my heart. Thank you, Ben.
Well, we're really looking forward to it, and we'll be at our usual location at the Ottawa Public Library's main branch auditorium downtown at Metcalfe and Laurier, and it's a big auditorium, so social distancing is never an issue, and you have such an important story to tell. We actually have a double feature going on. We'll also be learning about the amazing legacy of a century-old service organization, the Kiwanis Club of Ottawa.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ben. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Ben Wise joining us from the Historical Society of Ottawa. We are getting ready for a big lunch today. Ashton Arsenault is going to join us. He's pulling up a seat at the table today. So is Jennifer Madigan. We're going to talk about lots of different issues today. I'm going to ask them, is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau a Teflon man? Does anything stick to him? Well, we're going to come back on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888 Taxi Guy or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
This is Meg from Fit Over 50. On our next episode, we're going to be doing a full body workout using resistance bands. You can find bands at any local sporting goods store. So go get yours and hope to see you then.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support. Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, March 7th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, light snow, -6, feels like -15 in the wind. In Smiths Falls, it is -5 and feels like -12. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and other top cabinet ministers today in Kingston. They'll be talking climate change, gender equity, and ways to broaden trade and investment. The two leaders will also meet with Canadian soldiers that were in Poland helping out with Ukrainian refugees. Now, later in the day, they will visit a clean technology company and hold an event on collaboration on critical minerals in the net zero economy. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
A few flurries for us today, tonight, and for tomorrow. Back into the sunshine Thursday and Friday, but then flurries return for the weekend. It will be milder, though, Saturday and Sunday. Already reached our guaranteed high for today, -2 for the rest of the day, about -4, -7 for the low. For today, already reached our guaranteed high, -2.
City News time is 12:03. During a manhunt last month in Lanark County, police issued an emergency alert for 2 wanted men. But there was some confusion on the part of the OPP as those 2 men were wanted due to unrelated charges. City News reporter Chris Curris tells us there are calls for an apology.
The big issue is the release of personal information.
And people don't realize that personal details relating to you should never be made public, especially in association with having committed a crime that is actually incorrect.
Former Ontario Privacy Commissioner Anne Kavukian tells City News the bare minimum from the OPP would be an acknowledgement they made a mistake in the community, but the ideal response would be an actual apology. So who should hold them responsible?
It's the Ontario Provincial Police, the head of Ontario, the Premier, should ultimately be responsible.
After the alert, a third person was arrested, while the original 2 arrested on an unrelated charge. Chris Curry, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Every single day I look forward to our lunch, inviting people from the community in to talk about the big news stories of the day. We feast on those every single day. And today we're joined by Ashton Arsenault, Vice President of Crestview Strategy. Hi, Ashton.
Hey, Sam. How are you?
Good. Thanks for pulling up a chair today. Jennifer Madigan as well, coming to the table, Vice President of Media and Communications at Syntax Strategic. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
It's wonderful to spend time with you today. I want to kick off our lunch today, Ashton, and ask you this question. Is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau the Teflon man? Does anything stick to this guy, Ashton?
I'll say this. Justin Trudeau definitely has an immense talent for wiggling out of situations that would have been the downfall for many others. an undetermined amount of blackface appearances, firing and gaslighting the first Indigenous female cabinet minister, decreeing people as racist when they don't agree with him. I could go on and on. But what I am noticing is a pattern. And the pattern is sort of similar to the stages of grief. The Prime Minister and his government will deny and obfuscate until the last possible moment. And only when pressure becomes too immense will they actually do something about it. So I think that's what's happening right now when it comes to election interference. So I think the announcement last night is akin sort of to a half measure in an attempt to stop the bleeding. I'm not sure it's going to work, and I think ultimately a full public inquiry will be required here. But look, at the end of the day, this is somebody that's lost the popular vote twice. He isn't Teflon, and time appears to be running out, albeit slowly.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You've named a few there that, to your point, Ashton, really would take down, one of those could take down somebody. We add We Charity to the mix there, Jennifer, and I'll ask you the question, is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau the Teflon man?
He does seem to, it's true, he does seem to be able to get by, but I think in large part that's also due to people's perceptions on what their choice is otherwise. But it is quite amazing to see what he manages to get past in terms of, when you list it like that, it's quite incredible. I do think, though, that time is going to catch up with him, just as it does with anyone who is leading the country, but Trudeau in particular, that those little things are going to start to add up. And if there is an alternative that is viable to voters, I think that, his time is going to come and people are going to shift.
So, Ashton, to Jennifer's point, is this a case for Canadians about the devil you know as opposed to the devil you don't?
Yeah, look, I certainly think there's an element of that for sure. I mean, you need a viable alternative to, switch your vote, right? And, I think for a long time that was lacking. And when you add that problem potentially being solved, and in addition to, what's going to be pretty close to a decade in power, likely when we get the next federal election, you get a confluence of events where change is kind of in the air. So I do agree with Jennifer. I think it's a number of factors.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. And Jennifer, you think about the people that surround the Prime Minister as well. What responsibility do you think that they have when, we have that list? And certainly that wasn't even a full list of everything that's happened. But what kind of responsibility do the people around the Prime Minister have?
Well, I question, what are they able to do at the same time, right? He is the Prime Minister. He's the leader. They can only do so much, I believe. Behind the scenes, I'm hoping that they are nudging him in different directions. If you look at the current situation, we always tell our clients, know the end state and just get there. So if we're going to have a public inquiry, why are we doing all of these steps in between, right? If the pressure is going to build enough, we're going to go there. Why don't we just go there? Mm-hmm. So I think mainly the people around him, the responsibility is to be pushing from the inside to try to change things. But otherwise, I think they're very limited in what else they can do publicly.
Ashton, let me ask you this. Do you believe at the end of the day that this country, let's just speak about federal elections for a second, do you think those federal elections are fair elections?
Yeah, look, we certainly have free elections in Canada, and we should all hope and pray that is never not the case. In terms of fairness, I think legitimate questions have been raised about the outcome of a few specific ridings, for example, in the last couple of federal elections. And these are questions that need to be answered, full stop. When there are weak links in the integrity chain, so to speak, it's only natural that some will begin to question the system as a whole. So I think that needs to be urgently addressed. I do think elections in Canada are fair, actually, but I also think that there's much more that we can do to protect election integrity into the future. So it's clear, obviously, now that, nefarious foreign actors want to dictate certain outcomes. As a free society, that can never be allowed to happen, and we need to do what it takes to ensure that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. It's never lost on me, Jennifer, whether it be a municipal election, a provincial election, or of course a federal election, that there's people in this world and even in this country that have died for the right to vote, right? And so we have to protect that at absolutely all costs. So do you think we have fair elections?
I think we do. I think you're right. The last municipal election, I was helping drive people to polling stations and spoke with a gentleman who, moved to Canada as an immigrant and growing up, didn't have the ability to vote in the elections. And we talked a lot about the importance of that and how, how important it was for him to then vote on every election he could moving forward, including once he became a citizen of Canada. And I think, we need to remember that. And we need to, yes, I think that we do have fair elections overall. I think we do have a great system, but we also just can't rest on that. I think we have to be active and constantly looking at these threats and figuring out what we can do, because with the technologies that are out there, they're moving faster than the policies or the bureaucrats are able to. So I think we just have to constantly be on the lookout for the threats, for those risks, and not just rest on our laurels that we've got a good system and it's safe.
Beautifully said. Ashton, let me say this. The Prime Minister is scrambling to keep a lid on a growing scandal. There's no two ways about it in regards to foreign election interference. He's called 2 new investigations into China's meddling into the Canadian federal election of 2019 and 2021. Here's Prime Minister Trudeau on why he continues to resist calling a public inquiry into China.
We've actually seen a significant amount of debate amongst experts, amongst prominent, eminent Canadians, some in political parties, some not, as to whether or not a public inquiry is the right way to move forward. And further, the question of what exactly would be the terms of any formal inquiry, what form it should take, what the Constitution should be, what the mandate and tasks should be, what kind of clearances it should have. All those questions are really important in going to establishing a body or a process that Canadians will have confidence in once it's done. We've seen a level of partisanship around this question that, for me, requires us to take a step back and to task an eminent, unimpeachable expert, respected and trusted by Canadians, to be able to make recommendations as to what the best path is forward.
Ashton, the Prime Minister's running out of uncles, though, to run these inquiries, isn't he?
Yeah, we kind of get back to the first question there, right? So you go all the way back to 2015. One of the hallmarks of this Liberal government is just really terrible issues management. And, I would argue it's dogged them right from the start. But like I said, at times they're their own worst enemy. I think from the get-go this could have been handled better, but instead the government first chose to, number one, deny the validity of the problem, and then they added the sweet little cherry on top of finger-wagging at whistleblowers in this case. It was a horrible look, and now we have what I think is tantamount to a half measure to solve the problem. Look, at the end of the day, rapporteur might sound like a fun word, but it isn't a viable solution here in my opinion, and I think ultimately, again, this is not the last we've heard of this story.
Well, and I understand, Jennifer, that this person would be reporting to the Prime Minister. Mm-hmm. Is this not part of the problem here, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think we talked about partisanship and politics and all of this, but I think that's what he's a bit too focused on right now. I think what he needs to be thinking is everything that he's saying, how does the average Canadian take that? And when you look at what is being presented, that it could be this very secretive process, it reports to the Prime Minister, he can redact pieces of it. How does that give the average Canadian any comfort that we're going to have a full understanding of what's going on? And, listening to that clip, I thought, there's no reassurance there. He's ignoring what the real concerns of real everyday Canadians are based on what's happening. This is I'm hearing a lot of people chattering about this, even who aren't normally really engaged in politics. Canadians actually want to know what's going on. What are we doing to figure this out? And I don't think his answers are speaking to that at all.
Mm-hmm. And I think it also makes Canadians very nervous when they see, Chinese and Russian representatives meeting. I think it goes deeper than the China question, Ashton, for Canadians as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there's a war happening in the world right now, a Russian invasion, right? So, like, all of this is very real. It's playing out in real time, and it's no secret that if it's not directly on the surface, there's certainly some behind-the-scenes collaboration between the Chinese regime and the Russian regime. And as Canadians, we have the right to understand what is happening with our elections and whether or not they're being conducted with integrity and whether or not we are susceptible to sort of foreign interference. I think that is, a fundamental right that we as Canadians should continue to pursue and protect. So, when you have all of this happening in the background and you're taking, sort of half measures to address what is a very real problem, it actually makes the problem worse. And that's one of the hallmarks of the government that I never understood. Jennifer talked about the end state. They've never understood the end state, and I think they've caused themselves an awful lot of problems as a result.
And can I just add, the other thing they haven't done is answer the why not. When you listen to his answer, I still don't hear a good argument for not taking that measure. And so that leads to even more suspicion from people, right? Why are we avoiding this? No one in the Liberal government has given a very good answer, again, for the everyday Canadian, as to why we're not going to take this step. What is the real reason there? What is the benefit to avoiding that?
You hit the nail on the head there, Jennifer. Thank you so much. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and have lunch with Ashton Arsenault, Vice President, Crestview Strategy. Jennifer Madigan's going to be here as well, Vice President of Media Communications at Syntex Strategic. We have lots to talk about. We're feasting on those big news stories of the day on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. My performance will be coming out this week, so stay tuned.
Yo. Yep. Okay, I'll be there.
Behold Emily Carr, painter, about to encounter the force that will consume her life.
How tightly they sealed their secrets from me, humble and pleading before the great trees, awaiting the invitation from the Spirit to come meet me halfway. Nothing is still now, everything is alive. At last, I knew I must see through the eye of the totem itself, the mythic eye of the forest.
Seldom able to live by her brush, before she died in 1945, Emily Carr was in the first rank of Canadian painters.
This is my country. What I want to express is here, and I love it. Amen.
Hi, I'm Justice. And I'm Nia. And we believe dreams fuel revolutions. That's why we're engaging with Canadian icons and the causes they support. Join us for these inspiring conversations and find out how you can be revolutionary.
Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back. It's lunch, everybody. Thanks so much for spending time with us here on City News. We invite a couple people to the table every day. Jennifer Madigan, Vice President of Media and Communications at Syntax Strategic, joins us. And Ashton Arsenault here as well, Vice President of Crestview Strategy. We've talked a lot about election stuff. Let's shift our mind a little bit, Jennifer, to the grocery store. When you're going grocery shopping, does it give you a heart attack like it does to me? I used to walk away with maybe 4 bags, about $150 to $170, and now I'm walking away and it's $250.
Easily. In fact, I've downloaded the app that compares prices for you, and I've started shopping at different grocery stores. My children were asking the other day, why are we here? It's not our normal place, and it's all based on the prices.
It's crazy. And do you feel, Ashton, that we're being gouged?
Yeah, for me, this is an extremely complex issue. So I'll be honest with you. I don't think so, because I think at the end of the day, grocery stores are interested in retaining their customers. And, we're basically assuming that they're all colluding. I just don't think that's the case. I do think what we're seeing, though, is a confluence of issues affecting consumers playing out in real time, right? So you've got inflation. I mean, look at the pumps. It's costing more now than it has a couple of years ago. You've got interest rates. We have a looming recession. So I do think an honest conversation about the root causes of, food price inflation, because everybody agrees it is higher with participation at all levels of the supply chain, is important. And, some of that's happening in Ottawa this week. But again, look, I think it's complex. When we look around the world, we're seeing a lot of things that play into this: geopolitical instability, energy challenges, the list goes on and on. I don't think it's one particular issue, and I don't think it's one particular nefarious actor. I think it's a whole host of things, and it's hitting people where it hurts most, in the pocketbook. And
I think when we hear about, the type of profit that grocery stores are making, it can seem like, wow, that's a lot of money. But, Sylvain Charlebois, who's from Dalhousie University, sort of known as the food professor, Jennifer, he was talking about the challenges are that grocery stores don't just sell food. So some of those profit margins might be coming from the mascara you buy, and the T-shirt, and the bathing suit, and the plates, and cutlery or whatever else you're buying at the grocery store. So to Ashton's point, it is very complex, but Canadians certainly want to know, don't they?
They do, absolutely. And I wish I could I was reading something the other day about the profit margins in Canadian grocery stores versus American, and the fact that we don't have like a discount grocer quite to the same extent as the U.S. But I do think Canadians want to know, and it is a complex thing, and it's also hard to understand when you can compare and you see different prices, and they must be losing money on something to draw you in, but it's confusing to the average shopper to know what's going on. And the other question is, as inflation goes down, will we see any of these prices come down? For some of the staples, especially as a parent, there's certain things that we go and get, like the goldfish crackers, let's say, and they've gone up a lot. And you're just wondering, is this ever going to come down, or is this a new normal? And are they making more money at that point? But I do think people would love a bit more clarity on what goes on behind the scenes.
Ashton, are you like me? Do you stand there when you're buying, let's say, ground beef, and you see one for $8.95, and you see another one for $8.74, and you're like, yeah, score. I'm going to grab the $8.74 one. Ashton, is that you, or is it just me?
No, 100%. I do that with every product, not just ground beef.
Right.
So, I do that across the board, right? I mean, nobody wants to spend more than they feel like they have to at a grocery store, or any other product that you would, count as a necessity of life, right? Like, people need to be able to put food on the table. This is a legitimate problem that needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about. It's just, unfortunately, I'm sitting here from a deficit gap, because I don't know specifically what we can do to address the problem right now. But I certainly think, to Jennifer's point, there's more information that we could be shared to help us understand a bit more.
Well, and I think about 3 years ago, Jennifer, we had no idea what was coming for us, right? On March 7th of 2020, we had no concept of what was coming. And, well, certainly I didn't. I'll speak for myself. And I know families that were struggling then,
Yeah.
And those are the families I think about, Jennifer. I think about, the field trip where my daughter came home and said, so-and-so can't go because it's $10 to go, and they weren't able to, and I just think, oh my heavens. And I just worry about families, Jennifer, during this time that are really struggling.
Yeah, I do as well. I was just thinking that actually. I know, my daughter talked about a friend of hers who, they're barely able to get their groceries, and so they only have a set lunch every day. And it's, when I am shopping and I'm looking at the healthy, like the fresh fruit and vegetables, and you look at strawberries, might be $6 or $7, and it doesn't seem right that some families can have this and some families can't. I don't know what the answer is, but those are definitely the people I think of most. Like, it hurts for me to pay, but I have the ability to spend that $200. But what about those families that don't?
100%.
And I know we're seeing food bank use going up, and a lot of people who've never needed that, and some who don't technically qualify for certain programs, but who are feeling that pinch and can't afford food because of all of the other costs that are going up.
Absolutely. Changing subjects a little bit, but still feeling the pinch. Ashton, I have to ask you, how often do you back up your computer? My computer died, and I am heartbroken because I haven't backed up in 150 days. Ashton, are you backing up every day?
Not every day. I use a computer each and every day as a byproduct of my job, and I'm definitely in sort of the cloud environment. So I'm hoping that a lot of this is being handled on my behalf, because I am no technology savant. I have no problem saying that, but so far so good. I'm going to go ahead and knock on wood, but the prospect of backing up my computer every day seems really daunting to me at the moment.
And there's lots of services, which I've learned because of the horrible thing that's happened to me. Jennifer, do you back up regularly?
No, but I did have to just switch computers, and so I have moved everything. I'm not technically savvy, so I might not even be saying this right, but I have moved everything to the cloud from my understanding, so that when I switched and I just logged into the new computer, I still had access to everything. So that made me feel better. I just have to be very aware of where I'm saving things now, and not keeping things that I need on my desktop,
for sure,
where if something goes wrong, I don't have it.
Well, that's the problem, because that's the mystery for me right now, right? It's like finding Waldo. I have no idea where some stuff was. A lot of it was saved to the cloud, but some wasn't. Big shout out to our friends at Apple yesterday. I don't know him, but he's become a friend, Greg, who helped me yesterday buy a brand new computer. So not something I really wanted to do yesterday, but anyway, it's all good. Just a reminder to everybody, if you have to back up your computer, do that. Thank you so much for joining me for lunch today. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you. Ashton Arsenault joining us, Vice President of Crestview Strategy, and Jennifer Madigan, Vice President of Media Communications at Syntax Strategic. Thank you both.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sam. Bye-bye.
When we come back, it's the OBJ Business Lunch, the Ottawa Business Journal. We've partnered together on the next half hour. We're excited to bring you lots of great stories in terms of business. It's all business here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, as Canadians, we love our chips. Join us as we put an Italian twist on a crowd favorite, burgers and fries.
Your City News forecast for today could be a windfall of cash. With our weather guarantee, if we're off by 3 degrees, you could win. Enter at ottawa.citynews.ca. And if you hear your name on Wake Up with Rob Snow at 7:21 a.m., call in to claim your cash.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrival Live smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivallive.org to find out more. Arrival Live, drive sober.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, March 7th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, -5, light snow, feels like -14. Here's what's making news this hour. Federal opposition leader Pierre Poilievre says he has little confidence that the Trudeau government will appoint a truly independent watchdog to investigate foreign interference. Poilievre says he predicts the government will pick someone who looks like a reasonable fella with grey hair, but is really tied to the Liberal establishment. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his government will appoint a special rapporteur with a wide mandate to investigate foreign interference. But Poilievre says a public inquiry is needed into China's alleged attempt to interfere in the 2019 and 2021 elections. He said top secret information should be under a publication ban, and only information that will imperil national interest should be withheld. A leisure poll finds Canadian men are almost twice as likely as women to think gender inequality is overblown. Most of the 3,000 people surveyed believe the issue is important, but more than 30% of men and 17% of women believe the response to it is blown out of proportion. StatsCan data shows women earn 11.1% less than men per hour, with an even wider wage gap in frontline public protection services and paraprofessional jobs. City News Time is 12:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news and time, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch on City News, brought to you by the Ottawa Business Journal.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I don't know about you, but I'm always checking out the Ottawa Business Journal, looking for those business stories. And I love that I've signed up for those the sort of publications every single day. They arrive right in my email box. I get to keep up what's happening with all things business. I'm also an insider. I pay a little bit every year, and I get access to some stories that are just for insiders. So you might want to do that too. I wanted to spend some time today with Dave Korzinski, Research Director at the Angus Reid Institute. Hello, Dave.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Dave, we're talking about a subject that I'm really, really passionate about, and that is people that have yet to get a will. I'm hoping we inspire someone today, Dave, because this is such an important document. It's one that we don't really want to sit down on a Saturday afternoon and work on, but our family will appreciate it if tragedy strikes or if there's a need for that will.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you almost don't think about it because there's this idea of, well, I'm not going to be here, but, the people that you love, your family, potentially even close friends, people in your life, you can save them so much, trial and challenge. And, this is the kind of things that families really have a hard time with if the expectation isn't laid out and there's not a legal will and testament in place to kind of guide the process after somebody passes away. So we'd like to check in on this one. We actually asked some questions in 2018 and we asked some questions in 2023 just to follow up on a bit of a 5-year plan, and we found little movement. 50% of Canadian adults saying that they don't have a will. About 1 in 3, just over 1 in 3, say that they do have a will and it's up to date. And the other 15% or so, they have one, but it's not necessarily up to date. So that's another thing to consider too, is, if you wrote your will and you've gotten older 15 years ago, maybe you want to go revisit that and have a look at your assets and the things that you want to leave behind, and make sure that you can make this a smooth process, because, losing somebody is hard enough as it is without having to deal with all of the extra headaches that come with this sort of thing.
Beautifully said. And I know that when the pandemic hit, I was hearing from a number of people in the legal world that a lot of people were using that time to actually create their will. They were using that time because, there was a lot of fear, right, Dave? I mean, we look back 3 years ago, there was a lot of fear about people getting sick and that type of thing. So there was a little bit of a boost, but I'm really sad to see that we haven't really moved the needle. Now, in terms of updating, I'm just going to tell you, I am 52 years old. And I have had 5 wills because I collect husbands, Dave. It's a real problem. But not 5 husbands, by the way. But we had our first will when I had my beautiful baby girl. That was when I thought, you know what, I really need to be an adult now. I'm a mom. So I got my first will. And then after divorce, I got a new will. I got married again, got a new will, got divorced again, got a new will. You get the idea. So, to your point about those milestones that everybody goes through, families are fluid. And so, maybe the son-in-law that you had in the will 20 years ago and now you think he's a bit of a doofus, you probably want to take him out, right?
Yeah, you want to be careful with that kind of thing. You make those commitments. You think about how much life changes, even if you're going from your 30s to 40s, and then if you think, 40s to 60s, and maybe you haven't revisited since, we're talking about, the turn of the century now, and a lot has changed, certainly even just in the last couple of years, as you're saying, let alone, a decade or so. And it's a good reminder for people, I think, when you look at numbers like people who are older in Canada, as one might expect, are much more likely to have their will in place. But even for the group that are 65 plus, it's just 71% who say that they have the will and it is up to date. So the second largest group are the 16% of older Canadians, retirement age Canadians, who say that they have a will, but they haven't revisited it. So I think it is important, and it would be great to look at these numbers and see some movement the next time we do this for people who have made those preparations. You can kind of understand why, if you look at people in the 18 to 34 age group, a lot of them haven't considered this yet. But I think the one that really stands out for me is, 45 to 54. We've got half of that group, 49%, who say they haven't even looked at writing a will yet, and another 18% who say it's not up to date. So that's 2/3 of that group. That's... We don't want to make predictions about people's lives, but that's just, you want to start preparing, because you're at that age. You've likely have children if you're going to have them. You've got some assets probably, and it's something that you'd want to prepare for. I also thought it was really interesting that the number one reason that people say that they haven't written a will, besides being too young for those first few age groups, is that they don't think that they have any assets to worry about. And I think those people would be surprised if they actually took a look at the things that they've accrued along the way and what might have some value once you're in your 40s and 50s.
It's such a good point. And some of the other, reasons people think it's too expensive. Well, trust me, it's very expensive for your family if you don't have a will. So an interesting point there. It's too time consuming. I have to tell you, I don't buy that for a minute. There's an online option right now that I've sent a number of my friends to. Aaron Burry joins us here from Willful. And I've had a couple of people write back to me and say, Sam, they got it done in an afternoon, right? So it's not something that is time consuming. But what I will tell you is that when we think about, wills and the opportunity to sort of share this, it's also an opportunity for you to leave a gift in your will, right, to charity. And so you carry your values through after you've passed, that if you really believed in, in the Ottawa Hospital, or if you really believed in, in an international NGO doing work in India, whatever your charity of choice is, it's a good opportunity to also make sure you make that important decision as well.
Yeah, and think how good that would feel to take the what you had allocated for the doofus son-in-law and give it to a charity that you really feel good about. There's this subset of the population that says that they don't want to think about dying, but I think when you're framing it in the way that you're talking about it, it is an opportunity to really show appreciation for people in your life or for causes in your life. I think it means a lot to people when you start having these conversations and saying, one day this is going to happen. If you're talking to your parents, this is all of our time comes, and it's this is something that we've got to be adults about and have those conversations. But I think that you can frame it in a way that's really positive in terms of your legacy. And, even if it's just, you've got an old car that's worth $6,000, like that goes a long way at the food bank. There's these types of things to consider. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is about reframing how we feel about these conversations.
Absolutely. Such an important topic. And I'll just share, Dave, I've gone sort of one step further for my family as I've created this, we call it the big purple binder. So every single thing in there, so, who my lawyer is, who my financial planner is, where I have insurances, and all of their business cards are there if something was to ever happen. We hope, of course, I'm knocking on wood right now, Dave, that nothing will happen, but I just really want to make it as easy as I can for my family if something does happen. And I do think it's one of the last acts of love, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you've mentioned, there are places where you can do this online for either free or for a very low cost. So I think it's something for people to consider, and like you said, just it's a nice way to let people know that you care and that you're trying to make things easy because we've all heard the horror stories of how this can go if you don't have that kind of document in place. It can create a lot of problems, and families end up with a lot of excess challenges after losing somebody.
I feel it in my bones, Dave. I think we've inspired someone. I just feel it.
Yeah, I think if we get that 50% down to 48%, I think we've done our job.
Absolutely. Dave Krasinski joining us today, research director at the Angus Reid Institute, talking about the importance of wills. If you're lacking the will, get a will done, my friend. We are in the OBJ Business Lunch. We're going to come back and meet Ali Marcotte from the Thrifted Mini. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, I'm Danielle Allard, and I am a proud Ottawa born and raised singer-songwriter, and I'm part of Encore Ottawa 3. I really hope you like the music and just come and see all of the talent that Ottawa has to offer.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, it is a special edition because we are celebrating International Women's Day. Ariel Troster, City Councilor, joining us on the show, and she's going to tell us how you can build a better city for women. Also joining us is Care Canada. They'll tell us why it's so incredibly important to invest in women, and we'll talk about why women should be really touting themselves and talking more about their accomplishments. All that and more on Tuesday.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, some people used the A word. They called it an accident, but it wasn't. An accident implies that no one was at fault. But when someone impaired by alcohol and/or drugs chooses to drive, they're fully responsible for the crash that can result. So please, for the memory of my brother DJ and the thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by impaired drivers, let's drop the A word.
A crash caused by impaired driving is not an accident.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. It's the OBJ Business Lunch. We wanted to get caught up today with the owners of the Thrifted Mini. Ali Marcotte joins us, and Aby Dykema. How are you two doing?
We're doing great, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Okay, so I love this story. Ali, tell us how it all started. How did you get going in terms of clothes for kids?
Well, we both have large families, so we both have 4 children, and we actually live next door to each other. So we're kind of in tandem raising 8 kids together.
Wow.
And it was just something that was born out of a park date one day. We were sitting at the park, and we kind of said there's got to be a better way to manage the amount of clothing coming in and out of our homes. And that kind of led us to the idea of creating a cyclical business in which people could bring in their children's clothing and consign it, and we could help them sell it online and move it out.
Well, it's fantastic. And Amy, I know you've got a huge following on Instagram. You're pretty popular.
Yeah. We've got a good amount of followers. We have a lot here in Ottawa. Really, followers from all across the world. So it's really neat to see everybody come together over children's clothing. It's really interesting.
And Ali, I think that's probably one of the things that surprised me the most as a mom is how much stuff kids come with. And trying to kind of move through all these clothes and what fits and what doesn't fit. And it seems like there would be times it would break my heart. I would look and I would say, oh, she can't fit into this anymore. And she maybe wore it once, Ali.
I completely agree, and that's really where we come from. So I myself am a clothing addict. I love children's clothing, and I find myself just with an excessive amount of every size. And it is hard because sometimes you look at something and it's something that you maybe have sentimental value or something that you just really loved, and your kid's only worn it once or twice, and it's a real shame to just kind of throw it away or end the cycle of that piece of clothing. And so consigning it to a place like the Thrifted Mini helps to prolong the lifespan of that clothing.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Amy, where are you located? How can people get involved?
So right now we are located at 1239 Wellington Street West, and that's our brick and mortar. So we have a store where you can come in and shop. But we do have online sales several times throughout the week where customers can purchase their items. And once they've purchased their items, we have a couple different locations throughout the city that they can pick up. So if the store isn't as close to them or they can't get to the store, there's a location in Opian, there's a location in Blackburn Hamlet, and there's also a pickup location in Elmont and Davidson, Quebec. So we have kind of little stations throughout the city and surrounding areas where customers can pick up their items or shop in store.
Okay, so you're making it easy, which is right. Step number one for any mom. And Ali, what do you hear from people? Are people sort of relieved to be getting good quality items, but at a reduced cost? Because we were talking about a little bit earlier on the show, it's so challenging for families right now, and we want our kids to look great, right, Ali?
I really think people are enjoying that part of the process. People are getting a curated experience when they shop through us. So we really do make sure that we're taking the best brands, the best quality. We do a lot of focus on small shop, on handmade, things made in Ottawa. And I think people enjoy that they're able to try out brands that maybe would have felt inaccessible before. at a much lower price. And even me as a shopper, I know there's a lot of things that I've coveted as my children. Like when my firstborn was a baby, there's certain brands that I really coveted that now come into my store all the time, and I'm able to play around with them for my fourth.
That's so much fun. And Amy, talk a little bit about, clothes for boys, clothes for girls. Is there a bigger demand for one or the other? Do you find you receive more of one? How does that work out?
So we have our store and online sales set up so that we don't identify a gender. So all of our clothes are divided by size. So parents can come in and pick what they feel is best for their child. And we don't distinguish between boys and girls. We've had a lot of people come in who go by color or style, and so we don't really identify between the two genders. So it's all laid out by size.
I love that. That's fantastic. And Allie, what advice would you give? I can't believe that both of you have 4 children. You both sound so awake. I would be napping right now if I had 4 children. I have 1, and she's a really good kid, and I'm exhausted all the time.
I mean, it's not exponential growth. I think once you've had 1, you're in the game, right? Like it's hard no matter how many kids you have.
And even if you're just saying that to make me feel better, I really do appreciate it. But give us a sense. What are some of the other sort of tips and tricks of being a mom to 4 kids?
Oh my goodness. I don't know that we're qualified to answer that. We're both we're lucky because we do raise our kids in an environment where the two of us live next door to each other, and our kids are all the same ages. So I think you hear that phrase a lot, like find a village. It takes a village to raise children, and we're very lucky that we have that built in. We're lucky that this kind of worked out this way and that we can work together. And we made our store very kid-friendly. We have toys in our store for kids to play with, so it's become an environment that, like, we constantly, anytime the two of us are there, we have our youngest children in there with us. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the thing, is we've sort of had to adapt our life to our children, and we try to make opportunities to bring our children where we can, because, I don't know, it's fleeting. It's a very fleeting time, and I guess just try to make the most of it. And
absolutely. And Amy, I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase. This phrase got me through being a mom on those days where you think, oh my heavens, what's happening? And the phrase that I often think about, and I remember someone saying it to me when my daughter was teething, and it was, the days are long, but the years are short. Does that make sense to you, Amy?
It's so true. Like you go through the days and they're so long. You're just waiting for your partner to get home and the sun to come back up. But and then you wake up one morning and your kid is 9, your kid is 5, your kid is a foot bigger, and it is what it is. It truly is. They wake up one morning and they are bigger, and you look back and you think, well, where did that time go? You have no idea like how quickly it goes, and it just gets faster as they get older. I find
absolutely.
It's wild.
My daughter turned to me the other day and she's like, well, I can get my my license this year. I was like, what are you talking about? Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to get to know the Thrifted Mini and the 2 strong women behind it. Allie Marcotte joining us, and Amy Dykma joining us today as well. Owners of the Thrifted Mini. Let's go and support them on Wellington near Holland. We appreciate their time today. We also wanted to check out Yardley's today. Eric Yardley joins me. How are you, Eric? Hi, Eric. Oh, we're going to get Eric on the line. We wanted to talk about Yardley's Antiques today. I don't know if you've ever visited Yardley's. I've been there, and it is fantastic. So we're hoping to chat with Eric a little bit. We are so grateful for the opportunity to partner with the Ottawa Business Journal on this business lunch. It gives us a chance to talk about all things business, and we're going to be doing that every single day. We take a peek in the OBJ. We see what's new. We see what they're talking about, and it can be a story about a small business owner. We had a couple of people on yesterday talking about candle making business, but then we can turn around and talk to the CEO of Porter Airlines and talk about what's happening in terms of air travel in and out of Ottawa. So it gives us a chance to talk about all things business. Let's talk all things antiques with Eric Yardley. Hi, Eric. How are you?
I'm good.
Tell us about Yardley's. For people that have never been, for that one person, Eric, that's listening, never been to Yardley's, tell us what you do.
Well, we've been doing it for 53 years, so I hope that some of them have come to Yardley's in that 53 years. We've had thousands of wonderful customers. We have an enormous amount of stock. We specialize in lighting and antique furniture and china and glass, but we've also got a great, wonderful garden decor area in the backyard, and in the springtime, we look forward to the end of winter and getting our garden department opened up.
And it's so interesting because Yardley's right there on Bank Street, right, Eric?
Yes, we're right down in Ottawa South.
Ottawa South, such a great location. And you were mentioning that garden area. It's one of my favorite places to visit. I was just there maybe about 6 months ago and bought a few treasures for my new home. And it's pretty hip to shop in antique spots, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I missed what you asked.
Oh, that's okay. I was just saying it's pretty hip. It's pretty a cool thing to do to shop in antique stores.
Yes, there are a lot of young people. You wouldn't think so, but a great number of young people like to come in and dig through the old photographs and find treasures, and inexpensive treasures. Look at the old records and play the old photographs and things like that. Look at the old telephones. Mm-hmm. But in the springtime, we got a real flood of people coming in for our planters and trellises and swings and benches and bridges and windmills.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks for everything you've done over 53 years. I know I've enjoyed visiting. I'll visit again soon. Eric, thanks for spending time today and talking all things Yardley's Antiques with us.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Pleasure to get to know Eric a little bit today. And of course, we spoke with Ali and Amy from the Thrifted Mini. So everything that's old is new again, which is great. We love talking about all that here on the Sam Laprade Show. We are getting ready for a very important show tomorrow. It is International Women's Day. Tomorrow, all of our guests will be women. We'll be talking about all different facets of this community. I'm really anxious to have conversations as well with Councillor Ariel Troster and Councillor Teresa Kavanagh. They're going to be part of our chat as well. Catherine Clark's going to be here as well. We're going to be talking with Catherine Clark and everything that she's doing in the community. She's certainly very, very busy. Lots of different guests for you tomorrow, and we look forward to spending time with you on International Women's Day. Have a safe afternoon, everybody. Lock it in to City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.